to talk to my phone. So every time I dial into a Zoom, it takes me several minutes to figure out the audio, but I'm good to go. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, I'm going to go on mute.
Hello, good night all.
Good evening.
Welcome everyone. Betty, how are you? We're not going to have Debbie and Daryl. So I guess I see Mariel, so she's probably gonna do the report on his behalf. Right, Mariel?
Yes, that's right. Good evening, everyone.
Welcome. We have quorum. We're gonna try and get started. The earlier the better, so we can wrap up and have a very productive meeting tonight.
Eleazar,
Yes.
I'm terribly sorry, but I'm going to have to leave just short of 7:30. Hello?
Eleazar, you need to mute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now, yes.
Okay, Liz, so you have to leave before 7, you're saying, right?
No, just short of 7:30. I can stay on the call till about 7:25.
Do you mind giving your report first?
No, I wouldn't mind at all. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's try and speed up the process to get you first. Thank
I
you, Liz.
appreciate
Hope
that.
you feel better.
Thank you.
I think we can start if we need to.
So Betty, we're good?
Yeah. Good.
Good to go? I don't see no.
I can't hear anything.
Can you hear him? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes, but I couldn't hear Betty.
Neither could I.
Oh,
Hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
yes.
I think we have quorum. We're missing people, but we can start if you want to get underway.
Can start.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Okay, so it's 6:35. Gonna call the meeting to order. And before we do that, we commence our meeting. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. This has been difficult times, and we appreciate your time, and we're gonna treat it as such. We value each one of you being here, your talents, your time, your expertise, which is what makes board special. So thank you. I'd like to start with that note. And I'd like to also get a motion on the floor to get our meeting, our agenda meetings tonight on the floor approved.
I have a question about the agenda
Yes, ma'am.
because I've been sending emails and I haven't been getting responses. So I don't know what that even means. But I wanted to check and see if there were some things that, have been requested that are going to be a part of this agenda. One is the nominating committee, not just announcing it, but the issue itself. Also, I wanted to get an update, and I don't know if this probably would end up being an old business, an update on the community's desire for a public hearing on the Adriano Espillat bill, HR 717, formerly HR 77.
Great. So part of
And then and then I wanted to check up on the updates on the various task forces because I didn't see that on the agenda either.
okay, so we're gonna get the agenda approved. As far as the nomination committee, that's part of my report. So we're gonna try and invite Nobles Crawford, who is going to chair it and bring us up to date on his effort and his work that he's done thus far. So let's get the agenda.
But my question is about the agenda. So if I have
Well,
something I want to add, then I'm not approving the
I
agenda.
think I just said just now that.
But is it on the agenda though?
But it is part of my report, and I think that will
Okay.
be
So
explained.
the
Yeah.
SB bill is part of the
Thank you.
report. I know the nominating committee is part, but the SB bill is part of the report. The public hearing is part of your
The
report.
public hearing is part of all business in which I will report as to how far we've gotten our outreach to get both parties, Ramona Hernandez and Adriano Cespaya's office to come and participate in this public hearing.
Okay, and then the last thing was the task forces, adding the task forces reports is because I didn't see that being on the agenda. So that's what I'm asking.
That would also be discussed as part of my report.
Okay, then I'll have questions for you during your report. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So again, got our agenda on the floor. So, I think we need a second.
Who made the motion? Who made
You
the
need
motion?
someone to make the motion first.
I make a
accept the
motion
agenda.
to accept the agenda, given the additional comments from Eleazar.
Thank you, Mary. Now we need a second.
I second, Faye.
Very good.
Okay. Any abstentions?
And
Motion
there's no
passes. Agenda.
opposition, presumably.
No
either.
opposition, so agenda adopted. So again, beginning with our report, we are fortunate enough as the board and as a personal friend of his to have Nobles Crawford to have accepted our task to lead this effort to get a bit of a lateness here on the report on the nomination committee. I think that it might have been a slight of all of us. I think we're busy working on the statement of needs in our personal lives. I think that even those who are experts at bylaws kind of like did not bring to the table the fact that we needed it to have on a certain date. But Nobles, I appreciate what you've done by getting us caught up. I'm not gonna take away from your 5 minutes of fame. So I want you to briefly explain the names
it's shorter.
that we have and how your email threads and the outreach that you've done and sort of like go over briefly. Thank you. Nobles.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot. Hey, folks. Let's see. Where do I start? Because we're all busy. I guess. Okay, here we go. I know exactly where to start. Let's start with all of the good news. Honestly, there is no bad news, so there's no catch-22 here, but there is good news. We've reached out to about 95, maybe 97% of the board, the nominating committee, who has done an amazingly thorough job at calling, initial first contact, and also following up to making sure that they hear out the members of the community or the community board. And there's a couple themes that I'd like to touch on in terms of what that reach out. And I'm sorry if there's like a lot of yelling. Around this time, my kids are going nuts because they're hangry for dinner and they know bedtime's coming. So there's gonna be a lot of screaming. If you hear it, I apologize. Anyway, there's a couple themes that have come up, and I'd like to touch on a couple of those themes, and then also answer any questions that anyone may have. Does that sound good, Chair?
Yes, sounds good.
Cool, thank you. Okay, cool. Couple themes. One, I've been taking track of some bylaw changes. Octavia, sweetie, I'm on the phone. Can you please just ask mommy? Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, there are a couple like reforms that we need to our bylaws when it comes to making elections run more smoothly. This is definitely, this is not a normal time still. I mean, we're still in COVID, so of course there's certain flexibilities that need to be made. But this is also my second time running the elections, and I do see some ways that we can evolve / move forward a more seamless election process. So after all is said and done with this election, first and foremost, I'm going to be consulting with the nominating committee, putting together a few bylaw changes that we could put forth. And then from there, I know there's a bylaws task force or many different ways that we can implement some ways to update our elections and election systems, if you will. But you can look forward to seeing that from me. Jim, I'm certainly going to consult you, and thank you for the thumbs up there. So that's first and foremost. I've been hearing from a lot of people. We all have, and there's certain things that I think are common sense ways to do this. Second theme, and this has been something I feel that has been going on for a long time. Shout out to Betty Lehman. Shout out to Osti Kamenar, myself. Shout out to Liz Ritter. We have a major problem when it comes to the secretary position. No one usually wants to be secretary. And we're all, the nominating committee is trying to figure out why. But if one suggestion maybe I could come up with, doing the role a few times, I would love to have Betty's opinion on this, especially because this is exec committee and we can talk like that, is we have to find a way to empower a secretary of some official general meeting duty, either moving the agenda along like theirs, therefore there's no tips back and forth. I don't know what it is, but we do need to make the position more appealing, not only to train new folks to come in for the position for the longevity of the board, but also burnout is a real thing and people have to do the secretary work. And so that's something I hope to task all of us with when it comes to thinking how we can maybe elevate the level of the secretary in some way, form, or fashion to empower them a little bit more to make the role more appealing. That's the theme. So we don't have any folks that want to be nominated for secretary. So there's that. Next, when it comes to some of the foundations like I had last year, in terms of the type of person that the nominating committee reaches out to, and then if they're interested in a position, asking them, the same questions like, what is your, current role as a volunteer position outside of the community board, have been in the community, can this person, have conversations, disagreeing, but still moving the conversation forward? There's certain pillars outside of the attendance that the nominating committee took into consideration when we're making our nomination. And so that was definitely there. I'll put that in the letter, by the way. Oh, here's another bit of good news. Even though we did start a little bit late, we are still very much on time. Because I'm looking back at this community board letter, that went out last year on December 3rd, basically putting forth the nominations to the general board. This is like the general board mail that went out after the November meeting. That went out on December 3rd. So, and of course, if there's any intricacies of the bylaws, I'll leave that up to scholars scholars better than me. But if the November meeting does go off without a hitch in terms of saying the folks that are nominated, getting folks nominated from the floor, if that goes well, like, we're very much on time here, which is awesome. So there's that piece. I think I hit on the 3 themes I wanted to say.
Okay.
I'll open up to questions.
Then members.
I have
Who's
my
on-
hand up.
Tanya, please, Dr. Kinder's sister. When I put my hand up on Zoom too, man, it's like people like, I was just on state committee today and it's like, oh shit, I'm blending in the background with my emoji hand. My bad for missing you.
No problem. A lot of people do.
I feel it.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for your willingness to volunteer to do this duty again. I know it's a lot of work. I've been as a member of it, and I know the type of how much work is involved. So I want to thank you for that.
And the nominating committee too. They're doing excellent.
Exactly. Yeah, we appreciate all of them. And I wanted to just put on express one of my concerns is that this wasn't announced on the agenda. Like, I know that there were I want to now first I want to say one thing. First, I'll start here. That this wasn't put on the agenda, right? And the reason that that's important is because this community board is for the community. And so the community should know that you were going to be here and doing this report specifically because perhaps the community is interested in this process and who would be in leadership or possibly in leadership of this board and what that process even looks like, right? And so by it not being on the agenda, even if it was a last minute ad, the agenda has gone out to the public numerous times since the end of last week, and this wasn't on there at all. And it wasn't on there today, it wasn't on there yesterday. And that's a concern because we are here for them. We're not here for our own personal egos or ourselves. And so I think that, that was important. The community didn't even know that this was going to be done. And that right there, to me, is a major concern. The second concern is that this wasn't done, of course, according to our bylaws. And there was a statement made by our chair that, the experts didn't let anybody know. As leadership, we're supposed to know that. And we're supposed to know what the bylaws say in regard to all of our processes and how things are supposed to be done. We cannot say that it's on someone else to know that, even though we do have Jim and other people who might be experts in this area. We can't rely on them if we're going to be in leadership. We need to know what the bylaws say and what we are bound to. So those are some major concerns, and I still don't know why it wasn't put on the agenda. I've asked numerous times via email that it be added to it, and so that the public knows that this is happening, and it never happened. And so I don't know if you know why or whatever, if you can, explain that, but
Sure.
I think that's important. Yeah.
Cool. Dude, Tanya, well, first of all, thank you so much for your work on the community. You're always popping up and big fan, even before I was on the board. So want to start with that. 2 quick things. You're completely right about scheduled notices. You're completely right about that. And one of the things that is going to be a part of this proposal, you hit the nail on the head here, is that we're going to propose maybe the office takes care of notice timings. And so there's therefore there's always someone at the gate, basically being like, hey, this is coming up. We have to put this section in, just someone there as a gatekeeper, or we can figure out another mechanism here. But you're completely right. The communication could be smoother. And this is a 2-part answer because it kind of circles back around to your last question. I didn't know what time I'd be able to get on tonight, to be quite honest. And so picking up the kids back and forth, I went to the office today. I had a state committee meeting. And so I told Eleazar, I'm going to try to get in the beginning. I might have to come through in the end. Don't sign me up for any time. Now we could have put TBD or something maybe next to nominating committee report or something on the agenda. In hindsight, maybe I would have asked for that. Because you're completely right. It should have been on there. This is a public session. But I also think a way to, I guess, like officially make a timing of everything is certainly in order.
Okay.
Oh, and Nobles, one last thing. Just so you know, our bylaws do say that the recommendations have to be done 7 days before the November meeting, general meeting. So that's another,
Sometimes I
that's a,
forget things
right.
about it.
But
Thank you.
I'm not putting any pressure on you.
No, I love it.
Because
Thank
I'm
you.
just saying that that's what it says. So in case
Yep.
people have an issue, that is also something. So so technically that needed to happen today, right?
Well, you know,
because our
the
meeting
good
is
thing
next
is that
Tuesday.
we're 97% done, so it's still good.
Exactly. I'm just throwing that out there so we are always aware, right?
I really appreciate it. And I'm surprised that, so I've got some really awesome bylaws folks on the nominating committee. Shout out to Mariella Ali. She always keeps me straight over there, and also in the tons of conversations we have. That's the first time I'm hearing it, but I remember it from last year. But look, I mean, I could easily, whip that up. I got to find the format that I used last year for it. So let me look into it. Give me 24 hours.
All right, Catherine, she's on her right.
Yeah. Hey, Nobles.
Yo.
So my question's on, or not really a question, more of an ask on the questions that y'all are presenting, right? Because we know that the bare minimum is basically attendance. And in the last 2 years, it's been adding kind of more qualitative questions in terms of like the quality of candidates. I'm curious if maybe at the end of this process.
Wait, I think I lost you. Wait, hello? Wait, hello? Is anyone else hearing her? Or is it just me?
No, I think we lost her.
Okay.
All right.
Oh man, she's still talking. It sounded like a really good question. All right.
Give her a second.
So 7 days before the meeting.
What else do you
I gotta
have
find that template
before we get her back?
Any other questions?
No.
Oh man, she's going in and I was like, ooh, this is gonna be such a good question. I feel like she's still going. I think that's like her. I can like hear her faintly.
She's back. She might be back.
Catherine,
we lost you. We didn't hear like half of your question. Can you repeat it again? At least start from the beginning.
She's muted.
she's gone. Oh, she's muted. What? Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Sorry, we'll get back to it. I want to really get to Liz Ritter.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks. No.
Yeah, no
What
problem.
else?
I don't really have anything else on there, but look, you can always email me. And there's a couple people that I need to call out really quick because I see them here. Say, we sent you an email. If you could respond to the nominating committee on that email, that would be great. Unless you already did. Leo reached out to you. Or you can just like text anyone on the side that's on the nominating committee.
And good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Yes, you're right, Noble. Yes, I got the email, I read it, but it's been crazy in this side, and I do.
It's all good.
Not been able.
It's all good. Look,
But,
I mean, here's the thing, folks, too. If folks aren't on this list that's going to come out in the next 24 hours, I promise, Tanya, then you can always get nominated from the floor in the November meeting.
correct.
So if you need some more time to think about stuff, it's all good.
No.
Cool. And I haven't been able to get in touch with Jay Mazer. Can someone send me his number? Liz? Hey, what's up, Liz?
Yeah, I'll text you his number, and
Thank you.
I just forwarded to you the letter that you sent out last year.
Oh, you're the
so
best.
you have the language.
Thank you. I couldn't find it in my Google Docs.
There you go. That's why I always
I
keep
appreciate
emails. You bet.
Hey guys,
Keep this moving. Yeah.
does anyone? I think Catherine is trying to sign back on. Now she's back. Catherine, are you back on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Faintly still, but go ahead.
Okay, sorry, my headphones in the other room are acting up. Anyway, my question or really point was if in terms of the questions, right? Because our bylaws have the bare minimum in terms of like who's eligible for eligibility. And now that there's a qualitative aspect, is there like a rubric or, you know, something written up so that members keep in mind in terms, so we can like fairly evaluate, okay, this is, just in terms of, let's say if the question is like, you know, what volunteer work have you done or engagement on the board, so that every member that's on there has an idea of how they're scoring or how they're evaluating candidacy. And I think that even if it's not done, just this experience now, perhaps, you know, come next year, that's something that we can start to put together in terms of as an executive committee, so that every nominating committee is kind of ready to go.
Dude, I love that, you know, because it enshrines the qualities of the board. I mean, you're damn right. Throw it in the bylaws. And honestly, like, I don't even think people need to be graded on it or anything like that, to be quite honest. It should be like inherent in itself from the people that want to rise to a level of officer. Now, that could be a barrier of entry in the future. I don't know. It seems to be working out okay so far. I mean, you know, definitely like engagement on a higher level in the board is something I'm worried about. But I love that idea. It's transparent. I'm going to add that to the list. That's cool.
Sounds good. Nobles, Catherine, Tanya, thank you for all your questions. So we're going to try and move as quick as
All right,
I
I'm
can.
going to go take care of these kids. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, do that. Right, appreciate that. Get to Ebenezer's report, and then our treasurer, Omar Tejada. Ebenezer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Always is a pleasure being here as your district manager and give you the report. I'm happy to inform that Community Board 12 budget ranking for fiscal year 23 was submitted to City Planning on time. As well, the statement of district need was reviewed last week by our chairperson and the staff, and was submitted as well. I want to thank Chanel for the good work, you know, helping us to do all the hard work with the budget ranking. Also, the support to the nominating committee by Paola Garcia was done very well. You know, for whatever reason, we started a little late this year, but we were able to provide. Paola was able to compile all the attendance up to date in record time, submit it to Nobles, and give it the one-on-one support the committee, the nominating committee needs. So we are on track supporting the committee for the election this year. More than happy to assist. Noble, you know, any question, more than happy, you know, to assist you. The new computers that we purchased for the office arrived last week. First, we have 2 computers, and then last week we had the last 2 computers. The installation will take place on the week of December 13. It was supposed to be on this week, but Joe Coluccio, the technician from Do It, will be on vacation this week. Man. And next week, I will be going on vacation from November 24 until December 13. During my vacation time, you can contact Paola Garcia and Chanel Paniagua. They're well prepared to do the work, supporting the community board work. And, you know, they will help, and they will get in touch with me if it's needed while I am on vacation as well. And finally, I am very happy to say that this morning I have the honor to attend on behalf of Community Board 12 to the honoring at the Yankee Stadium for Deputy Inspector Charlie Bello, former CO from the 33rd Precinct. On the 44th Precinct, they have a special honoring for him because he's the first Hispanic, the first Latino being CEO on the 44th Precinct. And he sent me the invitation a few weeks ago, and he asked me, you know, to be there, consulting with Eliasa, who was invited as well, but Eliasa was not able to attend. He was very happy to see us there. Very good remark from the top, from the chief of patrol, from the police department and the community there for this officer. And I knew many things that I didn't know about this gentleman. He's really well prepared to not only be the CEO and deputy inspector, but the chief of patrol says, he said, I guarantee that you're going to be at least 3-star before you retire in the police department. So thank you very much. God bless you all. This is the end of my report. Take it away, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. My regards to, was Maria there as well? Maria Luna?
Yes, Maria Luna was there as the president of the precinct council.
Beautiful. My regards. Thank you. Moving on with our treasurer's report, Omar Tejada.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for giving me the floor here, some time to report on our finances for the board. Again, not much change, not much shift from our last meeting. We still have a small wiggle room of about $5,700 that haven't been assigned use yet. So that could be something that can be used for something that the board might bring up as a need. Outside of that, the funding that we're still tracking is $10,000 for NYC Cleanup Initiative. I've been in contact with the Director of Budget and Capital Projects at the Office of my Board President office, Ms. Vanessa Diaz-Lopez, who's been trying to give me information on the status of this funding. She gave me the contact of John Seltzer, who's the NYC Council Finance Analyst who manages this initiative, and I actually had a moment to speak to him. He has reported that this is on pace for November plan submission. So at any point when the city releases the November plan at some point in the next 2 weeks, hopefully that funding gets modded into our budget. With that said, I've actually followed up again with Ms. Vanessa Diaz-Lopez because I find it interesting that we have to wait for a financial plan to be released for this funding to make its way to us, whereas city agencies can make modifications in between plans and get funding shifted immediately. And the reason why I asked this question is because why should community boards be held back by funding being reflected when a financial plan releases? Because this then creates an impediment to our work. It stops us and holds us back by weeks for this funding to come in. So that's a question that I have to her, and she's actually reaching out to her contacts at OMB to kind of give us clarification on that process. I understand that this is city council funding, so there could be some rules there, but I want to know for our knowledge and us moving forward in the future, if there are any mechanisms that we can initiate this funding to be realized in our budget quicker, because I think it's unfair that the community board has to wait weeks, which can turn into months, for a financial plan by the city to be released for us to get the funding into our budget. So more to come on these official response to that inquiry. And with that said, that concludes my report. If there were a lot more changes, there'd be a lot more for me to say, but I open up the floor to everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. That bureaucracy between MBPO, DCAS, and the city is incredibly difficult to navigate through. Steve Simon, is that a question regarding Omar's report?
Yes. Can you? Yeah, I'm joining late, so I apologize, but I'm assuming what I just perceived is that we're still waiting on the confirmation of the additional $10,000 grant from the city council.
Correct. The funding is supposed to be realized in the November plan, whenever it releases in the next 2 weeks. At that point, there should be a modification from OMB to shift that funding into our budget.
Right.
My inquiry to the Manhattan Board President's office, as well as the analysts at City Council, was why do we have to wait for the November plan to have this money realized when city agencies have modifications done in between plans that gives them instant access to this funding, and then it's reported in the following financial plan. This is my grip, because we shouldn't be held back by a mechanism that until now, I haven't been informed what the mechanism is that's holding us back. So Manhattan Board President Office is reaching out to their OMB contacts to find clarification on why we have to wait for financial plan when city agencies can do their adjustments without a problem in between financial plans. So that's a lot to say that we're waiting.
All right. Well, I understand that point, but my concern is that the decision on how to use the money I believe is something that should be made at a minimum by the executive committee, if not by the board as a whole. And, I've sent an email a month or two ago suggesting putting forward a recommendation that came out of my committee about how we should sponsor recycling activities for e-waste. And I think that would be, my committee feels strongly that that would be a very good activity for the board to sponsor, to try to improve the recycling and make it easier for people to dispose of electronic waste. And I'm hoping that maybe at the next meeting, we can have a discussion about that and reach a decision as to whether or not the executive committee agrees that that would be a beneficial use of the funds.
Okay. Yeah, we're probably gonna try and do a sort of table, an Excel table similar to the statement of needs, in which we'll get a vote. We'll get to say what priorities we feel that, the money should be spent on, and then we'll tabulate it and come up with an agreement amongst all of us.
All right, well, that would be good.
Liz.
Yeah, just a quick question for Omar about the city council funding. Is it from the city council as a whole, or is it from our city council member? And if it's from our city council member, then is there someone in the city council member's office who could maybe help with this?
I think I can answer that.
Go ahead, Eliezer, if you want.
Yeah, because I've been in contact with Evelyn Collado, who's been the point person but you can go ahead, Omar. Sorry, I don't want to. That was an immediate reaction to a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've been in contact with the city council analyst that manages this funding directly, and for them, they're just waiting at this point. There's nothing that even the city council's analyst could even do on this part, and even he couldn't answer my question on how can we get this funding shifted quicker. So we're kind of at a standstill. I don't know if Eliezer, if you want to add more to that, but you're free to add more to that detail.
Yeah, based on our conversations with Evelyn Collado, staff, the chief of staff of our city council, who allocated the money to Community Board 12. Yes, she's been trying and to expedite the process for us to get the money for the past 2 months, but it's just been red taping until, like you just perfectly said, obviously by the end of this month, we should expect to have the full amount of the $10,000. Steve.
Yet the other 2,500 that was allocated by Levine, Omar, that money is now in our budget.
Yes, all that funding that you see there is in our budget. There's the 5,000 from Idanis Rodriguez. There's the 1,000 provided by Council member Carlos for an urban planner and technician, and then the 2,500 from Levine. It's this 10,000 that at some point was done after the previous financial plan was committed. So that's the reason why it's out here sitting in limbo. And my argument is, why do we have to wait to the next financial plan? It makes no sense.
Yeah, these other funds were probably specified in the adopted budget, and maybe Adonis didn't get around to it, to the 10,000 until a later resolution. But Ellie, my suggestion is that when we discuss the $10,000 grant from Adonis, that we also discuss the money from these other funds from the council members.
Got it. Thank you. Omar, any other questions for Mr. Tejada before he leaves? No? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Omar.
Thank you, everyone.
A lot of help. Thanks. Now we're going to move on to our December and January's calendars. Is there anything that you guys feel that needs to be revised, changed, updated? This is our time.
Yeah, I have a kind of a stupid question about the December general meeting. Obviously Christmas is not my holiday, so whatever is the best practice for people who observe it is what we should do. But I would have kind of thought that the busy holiday season would be the run up to Christmas, and that it makes more sense to have the general meeting after Christmas, after people have had their holiday and then come home rather than in the few days prior to Christmas when aren't people like getting ready for Christmas? Or am I not understanding how you people celebrate that holiday?
Once you celebrate Christmas, the next celebration up is New Year's Eve. So it's almost like a 1 week celebration. I don't see it as.
I see.
Yeah, in that
Okay.
sense. Yeah, Steve,
Okay.
you've had your hand up, or is it a new question, or Kimberly?
Well, I think I remember discussing this at the last month's meeting, and I think it was originally put down for the 28th, and I think we had a long discussion about how people might be away during that week, and it didn't make sense to do it on the 28th.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We put it back on the 21st.
Absolutely.
Got it. Oh, right. There's a school holiday.
Well, it's a week when a lot of people take a break and they go away or whatever. So I think our general consensus was to put it back on the 21st, that the 28th would not be workable.
Okay.
Jim?
I just want to point out, we never did this in the past. We've always had the meeting, before Christmas. Sometimes we move it, earlier, but it's before Christmas. And again, that
Nope.
doesn't
In the
invalidate.
90s, in the 90s and the early 2000s, we had it the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Well, we do not share that recollection. I do not remember it ever happening. So
does anyone else
we would check with Maria Luna.
I'm happy to send you the minutes and the press reports.
She was here before Christmas. But any December, January, anyone has anything to add? Nope. Yes. Yes, once, twice, three. Moving on. Thank you once again, Liz. You're gonna be the first one, since you're gonna be the first one leaving us.
Thank you so much. So I should have the minutes for our meeting ready to go out by the end of the week in anticipation for the next general meeting. We will have a resolution on the floor for there's a large 12-point-something million project that the city is doing to repair a bunch of retaining walls, 4 retaining walls in parks in our district. There are also a couple of retaining walls in the Bronx. That part is not obviously subject to our review, but it's all part of the same project. It's pretty not controversial. And there's lots of information about that forthcoming in the minutes. So there will be that resolution. I just want to give people a heads up that there was the issue of the Row New York Boathouse, which was the subject of a unanimous resolution from this board back in 2019. It went before the Public Design Commission in September. It was tabled there, and then it went before them yesterday. Yesterday, and it was approved. So that project will be going forward. And that's the end of my report.
Anything related to the bathroom, or as I've heard?
Yeah, there were several issues. One related to the bathroom and the extent to which they were or were not publicly accessible. There were some questions about the accessibility of the water. A lot of these issues had been asked and answered previously in committee. So ultimately, the Public Design Commission wound up approving the project, which the community board had also approved unanimously in concept. Well, in concept in 2011, in 2013, in 2015, in 2017, and then the design in 2019.
All right. Any questions? No? Great. Thanks, Liz.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Enjoy, feel better. Bye-bye. Next one up, Leo Jimenez. I'm sure you're representing your committee, transportation, traffic and transportation. Leo? While Leo gets back on, Francisco Lopez is here with us. Not Leo, not Francisco, Faye.
Francisco and Faye?
I don't see Francisco there either.
But you
Go ahead, Faye. You could go on, Faye.
can I, okay, just give me just 1 second.
If you're not ready, I can have Isidro and get back to you.
Okay, go to Isidro, yes, because, yeah, I think it's
Okay.
better. Please.
Isidro's always ready. Isidro? What's wrong with you guys today? Isidro? Gotta call these people on their phones. Domingo?
Eli, I'm sorry. I was trying to get the mute phone on. I mean, button
Okay.
on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was having problems with this phone, and I used to doing Zoom on phone. So anyway, from licensing very quickly, 21 licenses, 5 were withdrawn, 2 were rejected because either the client or the operator didn't show up, or did not complete the requirements on the documents that were required by the community board. No issues, no contending problems. So I think it's a very straightforward report. And that's basically it on my end.
Hey, I just got a report from Natalie that she had the same issue at a previous Zoom call she had. Apparently there's a Zoom lag in which there's a lot of zigzagging around.
And
So-
Natalie's an expert, so I don't feel bad now.
Okay, so Isidro, well, thank you for your report. Mary? You would have to unmute yourself. There
I
you
know,
go.
you gotta remember, I have one hand, only one hand
Oh.
to use.
Yes, sorry about that.
So I'm a little slow on the draw here in my left hand. I'm not left-handed, so hang on a sec.
Take your time.
There we go. Our last meeting, we had an excellent update presentation from Biana Boych from the College of Dental Medicine from Columbia University. She's the associate dean there. And remember, in July, we had a presentation about her pilot project to work with homebound seniors, providing dental evaluations and some services, but referrals as necessary. And we encouraged her at that point to think about not just homebound seniors, but those that attend senior centers and other venues, because inevitably seniors under normal circumstances with Medicare and all don't necessarily have dental coverage, so they're lacking in dental care. So she updated us on a lot of things as a ban. In fact, there was a ribbon cutting ceremony on Friday, which I was scheduled to attend, invited to attend, but did not because of the inclement weather. And the fact that I can't wrap up this casted hand very well for that kind of weather. So I missed that, but
Mary, I was there representing you.
good. Oh, right. I love it. So anyway, they are going to be, reaching out to the senior centers. In fact, they are coming also to the WICOA, if people know about that organization, Washington Heights Inwood Council on Aging, to make further presentations and get more people involved as far as all of the senior center directors and other folks that, you know, need that service. So we're hoping that this really takes off. We also discussed an issue that's going on with the senior centers. They all received their I'm sorry, hold on one second. Their budget from DFTA, you know, the monies that they're going to be allotted from DFTA, and there was no increase in the funding. And we all know that everything has gone up price-wise. And with that funding that they were to receive, they wouldn't even be able to pay the rent, never mind all of the other necessities of running the senior centers. So we discussed and we voted to have a resolution to ask DFTA to increase the funding for the senior centers so that they can function appropriately. So that hopefully will be ready for voting on at the general meeting. That was passed unanimously at our meeting. Our next meeting, which will be in December, we have this organization which actually Eleazar has passed on to me. Proposed Corporation Wellness and Inwood Program. And they're talking about intending that to provide counseling services, but also I'm sorry, drug and alcohol service related services. And we have been really lacking in those services for the elderly population. And, you know, so we're hoping that this organization will incorporate the elderly into their program, but we're going to have that presentation at our next meeting so we can discuss what, you know, they're thinking of offering and what we would like to see them offer. So that should be an interesting discussion. So please join us at our next meeting.
Yes.
And that's all I have right now.
Don't leave just yet. I think Liz has something to ask you before she leaves.
Yeah, it's actually not a question for Mary. It's just a quick statement before I bounce. I want to thank the entire executive committee for making space to reschedule last night's meeting to tonight so that we could participate in the incredible training session that we had last night. And I hope that the people who were able to attend got as much out of it as I did. And I really, really hope that the next borough president, you know, offers it again, because I found it was incredibly valuable. So I just wanted to say that.
I second that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary, thank you. Thank you for reaching out to that organization. I think they,
yes, thank you for
I'll make sure that I'll try to help you with the outreach. I think they're going to do, guided by someone with your experience, the right thing. So thank you. Appreciate that. I have, I'm going to start back on again with the people that I called first, but they were having issues with their mute button. So I'm going to go with Faye and then Leo.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. I do apologize because my super came. That's why I have to take a turn. Anyway, on my report, it's not really much that I have to report, but except that we have a presentation provided by Nancy Goodman, who is the founder and creator of a non-for-profit called College Money Matters.org. And she basically wanted to announce with the community or to share that her not-for-profit, what they do is to help students and their parents navigate the college scholarship tuition landscape. And, you know, and the goal is, of course, helping a student to erasing student debt and helping a student also to get a scholarship funding for college. Of course, the service is completely free. And what they wanna also is to ask the board and our committee, I would say directly, to see if we can hopefully promote, the services and share the information with your students. Other than that, we also welcome Keris Young, who rejoined our committee. So that's a good thing. And I guess this is it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you. Very informative. Sure, there's a lot of students that would want to hear about that particular project, about
Yeah,
getting, forgiven, debt forgiveness, debt forgiveness.
that's right.
Thank you. Betty, you have a question. I think you.
Yeah, Faye, what was the name of that woman? Nancy, what was the last name? Faye?
I'm
Faye?
sorry, the name is
So-
Nancy Goodman.
Goodman?
Nancy, like the sort Goodman, Godman, Goodman, like Goodman.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I can send you her email if you wish, or anything like that.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Traffic and Transportation, Leo Jimenez.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize that again, my mute button on my computer just wasn't working. We had a pretty brief meeting about 2 weeks ago. We had DOT have a brief presentation on the busway between Broadway to Amsterdam. They haven't been able to collect enough data to provide the survey, so they're most likely going to come back to us, if not next month, in January. But they said they saw a couple of increases in bus traffic in that area, about 20-30% from 2019 pre-pandemic. The reason that they haven't had a survey yet, as they're working on the study, is because they were waiting for the school to come back into sessions to see how it would affect the traffic patterns. So that's one of the things we discussed. And Debbie and maybe a couple of the other committee members, I wasn't able to attend because I didn't get out of work on time to meet with DOT, but they walked through Fort George onto Amsterdam and back through the Autobahn loop just to discuss and see how DOT can make some improvements in the area. There's a lot of racing issues back there, and there's a school, there's the George Washington campus, a few schools. So she had a walk with them. Me and her have scheduled Thursday to discuss more about it. Since again, I wasn't able to attend.
To that, I was able to attend that along with our facilities director. And there were 4 people from the DOT and a gentleman whose name is Rain, I can't remember his last name, from the high school. We spent about an hour walking around. They're going to make some recommendations at the next DOT meeting as to how to curb the speed with which motorcycles and other kinds of vehicles travel up Amsterdam Avenue and then around either to Audubon or to St. Nicholas. So they're very aware of the problem, and they're going to make a presentation on December 6th.
Thank you, Betty.
Sorry, Leo. Mary has a question. Mary, you want to unmute yourself? Because that's what you're raising your hand.
Actually, I was just going to say that I was there yesterday also, but Betty gave the report, so that's fine.
Thank you, Betty and Mary. I will discuss more with Debbie, and as you guys said, they will be presenting at the next December 6th meeting. I believe it's also a school safety department in DOT that will be adding or implementing these changes. So I hope you guys can join us next meeting.
Hey, Simon, before you leave, Leo.
Yes.
Is there any news on the on when the elevator at the subway station at 190th Street will be completed?
They haven't given. Yes, they haven't given us any update on that. In a recent meeting in October, we discussed the work going on in the Dyckman, the 1 train subway station. But we'll make sure to inquire from DOT, from MTA in the next meeting, to get a timeline on when they plan on reopening it.
Well, I wonder whether Ebenezer or somebody can reach out to our MTA liaison, because I went to an event in Fort Triumph on Sunday, and there was there was no sign or indication that the elevator was closed, or there was no announcement on the subway. So I assumed that the elevator had been reopened. And then I go up to 190th Street and I'm stuck and can't get up to the park, and had to go back down to 181st Street and then make my way up to the park. So if at a minimum, the subway conductors should still be making announcements, letting people know that the elevator is not in service.
I completely agree, Steve. I'll do my part as well and inform Debbie so that we can reach out to MTA and see some type of update.
All right, I appreciate it, but let them make announcements so people don't get stuck up there. And I'm told I'm not the only one on Sunday who was going up to the park and then had to turn around.
Right.
No, we'll give the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Steve. Mariel? Mariel Ali?
Hi, Eliezer. Sorry, I'm still making dinner at this point.
We're having a Zoom day, so hey. This mute button is acting up in all of our phones.
Oh, no mute for me, just trying to cook. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all well. So earlier this month at the Housing and Human Services meeting, we gave a short recap on the budget rankings. We also talked about kind of some potential guests that we would like to invite to meetings. I'm just pulling up my notes that I do have. We also took some time to review the community health profile and city planning community profiles. For us, we found it really helpful to look at some of the things that were highlighted by the different agencies in terms of issues of concern in Washington Heights and Inwood as it relates to housing and human services. Something that we would like to do is just to follow up and see what is happening with them, because the last one that we found was from 2018. And there was some discussion in the committee meeting that, it may be due to lack of funding or lack of capacity to do this. And so there's maybe an opportunity for the committee to get involved and support on that. We also briefly spoke on vaccine rates among city agencies. I think we're all aware of everything that's been happening around that. And then we closed the meeting out talking a little bit about the climate change initiative that we're all trying to do in terms of streamlining, really thinking sustainably about climate change, not just from the perspective of environment, but also through the perspective of business, through the perspective of human services, through the perspective of housing, and so many other issues that it intersects with across all of the committees really on our community board. So that's what we talked about, and we're looking forward to the next meeting in December. Thank you.
Hang on just yet. I hope you don't burn your food. Tanya just raising her hand.
It's still okay.
Yes, Marielle, I don't know, I probably is not going to be able to answer the question, but there was email circulated inquiries about the resolution that your committee wisely passed regarding the Fort Washington Armory. There's been an inquiry about the status of that and how it's moving is, in terms of that it hasn't moved forward. And so I wanted to find out, because I was just put on the email thread, actually, I think yesterday or something, but I had an emergency, so I didn't even read it until today. But where is that, and how can we get that moving forward, and can we get some response, even if it has to be led by your committee, because your committee did start it, or pass this and put that, took all that, put that resolution together and everything to get a response to the inquiries from the community asking about that. Because I just don't think, I think if people are inquiring about something, I think we should be responding to them, and we should be giving them an update in terms of where things are. But I just, again, it's out, a former letter was sent, and to ask about it. And so I don't know if you know, or if maybe that's something you could take back to your committee to give, so we can have an update, and that update can be given to the people who are inquiring about it officially.
Sure. So thanks, Tanya, for the question. So I am not on that email chain, so I do not know about that formal inquiry, but I do know that at our last committee meeting, this was raised. One of the committee members did ask about this. And from my understanding, I'm not involved in this, but my understanding is that Darrow will be following up, or has followed up with office staff because my understanding is the next step is a meeting. To arrange that, but I can follow up and kind of take it back with the committee to see where that's at, and see what are the next steps on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And Mariel, back to be Miss Jeff. Enjoy your night. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye. Domingo, getting back to you. If you're not there, then I'm gonna go with Mr. Steve Simon again, and then Wayne's World, wherever you are today. Steve?
Yeah, let me just briefly say that as the chair of the Health and Environment Committee, I believe our committee would consider climate change to primarily be an environmental issue. Not that other committees shouldn't also be involved in that question. I guess, Mario, we need to have a conversation so I can better understand what it is that you have in mind. But let me give the latest report on COVID-19 statistics for our community. According to today's reports on the Department of Health website, substantial transmission rate in our community of 57.35 new cases per 100,000 people over the past 7 days. And although the indicator is that we have a substantial transmission rate, we're way below the figures for citywide, which is 91.35, and Manhattan, which is at 98.79. Usually it's the reverse. In this case, we seem to be doing better. Since our last board meeting on October 26th, there have been 354 additional cases in our 4 zip codes. So that would be 25,034 total cases since the beginning of the pandemic. And they now indicate that we've had 821 deaths, which is actually 2 fewer. Than the report that we had back in October. So apparently 2 of the deaths have been reclassified. In terms of our vaccination rate, we still only have 1 zip code, 32, which is over 70% at 71.46% of people who have had at least 1 dose. The 3 other zip codes are below 70%, and we're still lagging behind the rest of the city, which is at 75%, and Manhattan as a whole, which is at 83. Ebenezer, I'm assuming that the resolution we passed asking for a vaccination site in Washington Heights and Inwood, I'm assuming we have not seen a response from the mayor's office on that question. Is that correct?
We sent it. I don't recall seeing any response yet.
All right. Well, we were told by the health department representative at our meeting that there was a lot of discussion about it, and she was going to see if she could get us make sure that we get an answer. So as you probably know, vaccines are now being provided to 5 to 11-year-olds. They were being provided in all of our schools last week, and boosters are now available in the city to all adults 18 and over. If you had the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine at least 6 months ago, or the Johnson & Johnson vaccine at least 2 months ago, you would now be qualified to get a booster shot at any location where vaccines are being provided. New York Presbyterian gave a report on our committee meeting. Once again, had no specific breakdown of the number of COVID-19 patients in the 3 hospital facilities in Washington Heights and Inwood. They estimated that they have, at that point, had over 100 such patients throughout their system, and maybe about 30 in at the Milstein, at the Children's Hospital, and at the Allen Hospital. And once again, they could not provide information to us on the number of people in our 4 zip codes who have received vaccines through the hospital. And once again, we asked for that specific information. And again, there is still no word about the status of the 30 psych beds at the Allen Hospital, which have been basically decommissioned and are now being used for general medical purposes. All they told us is that they're still talking to the state about converting those beds and would report to us next year. That is not satisfactory. Isabella reported that 100% of its employees have been vaccinated. 90% of its residents have been fully vaccinated, and they've now started providing boosters to the residents. And as of our meeting earlier this month, 30% of the residents had received boosters. And the New York State Nurses Association gave a report at our meeting indicating that there is a severe nursing shortage at New York Presbyterian, worst staffing, they told us, in the last 20 to 30 years. Many nurses are now working 16-hour shifts. Some are responsible for as many as 30 patients, including nurses in the ICU units. They've been given more patients than they should normally be asked to handle. They're losing nurses, they said, at twice the normal rate because of stress and burnout. There is a union rally tomorrow at the hospital at which I've been asked to speak. And if it's okay, Ellie, I would like to be able to appear there to represent the board.
Count me in, just text me the information. I'll be there.
You'll be there too?
Yes, you send me the information. I'll be there.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Sounds good. Maria wants to chit chat with you before you leave.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Steve, for your report. Very helpful. Just really quickly on the climate change initiative. So it's not that I'm saying it's not related to environment. Of course it is. I think that's common, it's common sense. It's more so about thinking about climate change in a holistic manner, thinking about it through the prism of sustainable development. If you would have, I'm not sure if you followed the Conference of State Parties in Glasgow that just wrapped up a couple of days ago. And really, how do you think about it from the lens of all of these different social issues that we're all involved in, whether it's education, housing, human services, so on and so forth. Either way, you're on that email chain, and I really look forward to working with you for this initiative. Thanks.
Well, again, our board operates through a committee system, and issues such as this would go through a particular committee. Certainly, the committees have been known to work together, but any resolutions and actions should be taken by a lead committee on certain issues. And the lead committee on this issue, I believe, would have to be the Health and Environment Committee.
All right, well, good enough. We'll work it out. Thank you for taking the initiative, and thank you, Steve, for taking the leadership. I think Mary wants to say something before we move on to the next report.
I have a question. Steve, what time is that rally tomorrow?
At 8 a.m., I believe it's outside the Milstein.
8 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe it's at 8:15.
Better.
All right, Wayne Benjamin.
Thanks, Eleazar. Just for reference, the nursing shortage is not just at Presbyterian. It's citywide. I mean, it was on the news earlier today, and the hospital that they were focused on, I believe, was Mount Sinai. So it is something that is, citywide. And as a matter of fact, beyond that, I have a cousin who's a nurse in Philadelphia who retired because she couldn't take it. Land use had 2 presentations, but actually there were also 2 other presentations that were scheduled for November that got deferred. And those include a presentation from the development team for the ELIZA, which met with us in October. It was supposed to come back to get support for Saturday construction all day. However, they did not complete the outreach that we requested, and I found that out literally at the last minute. I think it was the weekend before the Land Use Committee meeting. So they did not present. I believe they are presenting to Housing and Human Services to discuss the project more, and probably that that request, which is just fine. The other project that was scheduled that didn't materialize was the American Academy of Arts and Letters, which once again presented to us in October. It's a project by which the buildings will become accessible, and part of that includes a link between the north and south buildings. This is another project where the Land Use Committee suggested they have outreach to their neighbors. As a result of outreach to their neighbors, who echoed some of the same concerns that the Land Use Committee had about the nature of the link and its solidness as opposed to its transparency, they deferred coming back to us so they could study other design options. So the two projects that we had presentations on were the 46 Broadway development project, the focus of which is a application under City Planning's Fresh Food Program. They presented to us in October, and as we discussed it, at the end of the day, the fresh food store is 15,800 square feet. And that's less than 10% of the overall development project, which is over 274,000 square feet. So we asked them to come back to us in November, with more details on the project. And that's actually the outline resolution that's before the executive committee for a vote. Land use did not vote on it because after we provided our extensive comments, the development team said they wanted to absorb that and get back to us with their response. They did respond, by the end of the week, but basically, there are no changes to the project. So our concern is, and our concerns are similar to the prior development when at the site for Sherman Plaza, is its proximity to Fort Tryon Park and the Cloisters really makes certain design considerations and building height critical. That's all outlined in the resolution. We basically are saying that, the use of the fresh food program is really misusing it, because we're not saying the supermarket isn't needed. I mean, it brings, fresh food and vegetables, and that's required per the zoning. It's actually a deed restriction, but it's really only being used so that the residential component of the building can get a little bigger. And so I believe some of the parking requirements can be, reduced. So it's literally not the reason the program was created. And this program is not like a rezoning that goes before the entire commission. The chair of the City Planning Commission is the person who is authorized to approve or disapprove applications. So we are recommending that the executive committee pass a resolution saying that we do not support this application. We do not support the misuse of the program for a poorly considered development project, and we urge the chair not to approve the application. I will also say that Senator Jackson, wanted to talk a bit about this yesterday, and his question is, or his suggestion is, we might also ask the other elected officials who represent the area to also contact the chair and urge her not to support it. So I would amend the outline resolution that's before the executive committee to add a second, be it resolved that the other elected officials who represent the area also, contact the chair and urge her not to support the application. So that's the 4650 Broadway project. 2238 Cummings Street, as some of you may know, is the site of Holy Trinity Church. Holy Trinity Church actually have discussed their plans for development with the board and the committee over the last couple of years. And as you may recall, the church facility was in a state of disrepair, and they did not have the funds to, renovate it. So they partnered with the developer who at this juncture has, renovated the sanctuary. They now have operating mechanical systems, means they have heat in the winter and air conditioning in the summer. They have an accessible entrance at sidewalk level, and they actually now have working elevators. The other part of the project is to build a new residential building, and that site was included in the inward rezoning, although one of the things we asked the church to consider, and I believe the borough president did as well, whether they wanted the site to be carved out. They were convinced not to ask for the carve out, so the rezoning limited their building envelope to about 7 stories. So they filed for a Board of Standards and Appeals application for a variance for 2 things. One is to allow the construction of a 9-story as opposed to a 7-story building, and the other is to reduce or waive the parking requirement. And as we've discussed in the past, and those of you who know the site is completely covered with rock. With Manhattan schist, which Jim Berlin points out, you may try to dynamite it, but it laughs at you. And the rock is from 15 feet in height to 45 feet in height. It's simply impossible, to remove. And the neighboring residential buildings would be very concerned if anyone tried to remove that. So we were supportive of that, BSA application. We thought it was, reasonable. And quite frankly, if the site had been carved out, this BSA application would not be necessary. The neighbors did have some concerns about, as construction progresses, what kind of safety measures are going to be taken with respect to the rock, so that, there isn't any shifting or anything that falls, because there is an alley between their site and the residential building that is used for, putting out garbage. So the development team has been in touch with the neighbors and committed to continue to be in touch with the neighbors, and the resolution we passed encourages them to do that, but also to reach out to HPD and HDC to explore the extent to which the city has funding programs that can further help with the affordability levels of the project. The project is going after 421A benefits, but that's somewhat limited. And at this juncture, they're not looking at any of the city programs, and the extent to which they exist, we certainly think they should be, explored. So the action that is required of the executive committee is the resolution for 4650 Broadway, which was circulated to everyone.
Before I pose a question, I'd like Steve to go first, and then I'm going to go second or third. Steve.
All right. Are we discussing the resolution now on 4650 Broadway?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So I have 3 comments on it. The first is pretty easy, I believe. At the bottom of the first page, where it says Fort Tryon Park is a national landmark, I would like that to read that it's a national, state, and city landmark. It has designations from all 3 levels. I would like to have an additional whereas clause indicating that there is a major full-service supermarket 4 blocks away on Broadway, and another one 2 blocks further north, and various bodegas in the surrounding area, so that there isn't a desperate need to have this particular supermarket located at 4650 Broadway. And my third comment is that I think there are a couple of sentences in the resolution that detract from the thrust of what we're trying to say. And I don't think that they're particularly helpful to include the comment that that the proposed building is smaller than permitted as of right. I mean, that's an argument that the developer can make. I don't think we need to make it for him. And likewise, to say that in the next to last paragraph, that the impact of a new supermarket on the community and its relative benefits are not the core concern with an objection to the proposed proposed project. The problem with that is that the issue in front of us and the issue in front of city planning right now is simply whether or not to grant the fresh application. And for us to sort of say that we don't care that much about the supermarket and whether or not it's going to serve the community, I think is again detracts from our argument. And that's why I want to make it clear that there are two major full-service supermarkets in the immediate community, as well as various other food stores, bodegas.
Well, Steve, I suggest you email those changes to me so I can incorporate them into the Word document. And, we can certainly rephrase the language vis-a-vis the supermarket. The thing that we have to remember, because this came up during the meeting, is, there have been, references to whether it's a food desert or not. And remember, the fresh food program, there's nothing in it that speaks to food deserts per se, and I don't even know if there's a real definition for that. But the program came out of a study that, pointed out in certain neighborhoods, including most of Upper Manhattan, there was a, correlation between, sort of, fat, salty, unhealthy foods and obesity and other health concerns. And the focus of the program was to ensure that there were stores that, dedicated X amount of square footage to selling fresh, healthy produce. The fact that there may be bodegas or other supermarkets in the area, we don't know what the composition of their produce is. And unrelated to us, there was a study done some years ago of that retail strip in 3rd Avenue, and a lot of those stores did not, in fact, sell healthy food. So that's just for background, but we can certainly, massage it. And some of the description of what is and is not permitted as of right under zoning is because, the land use committee, as you know, because you've been on it for a number of years, has, focused on, letting folks understand that we understand what we're talking about. And when we're speaking to city planning, whomever, that, we understand the language they speak. So we understand that the building can be bigger, but we also understand that the residential component can't be bigger unless they use this program. So we understand the detail and we understand how it's being used, and we're saying it's being misused.
Yeah, but my problem, Wayne, is with the way we're providing that sentence, is that at the same time we're saying that the project is going to have a negative impact on the park and the surrounding community because of its size. And then in the next breath, we're saying that it's actually not as big as it could be. So why even bother to say that?
Steve, send your edits and we'll work them in.
All right, thank you. And Wayne, I want to have a separate discussion with you about 2238 Cummings Street.
That's fine.
Likewise, join me in. Yeah, I'll send you my comment as well via email. I'm a little concerned about whether the impact is mostly on and the sensitivities towards, for trying parks and the cloisters rather than the neighborhood itself. What's the stake here? What are we objecting?
At the end of the day, we're saying the project in its entirety, even though the only thing before us is the application, and that's quite frankly all we're being asked to opine on, and that's all that the chair is being asked to opine on. We're saying, and I think Tanya put it pretty nicely during the committee meeting, we're looking at the project in its entirety and in its context. And we're saying in its context, in its neighborhood context. So the park and the residential buildings around, all part of the neighborhood context, we're saying it's not a good fit. The design didn't think about its location well.
As long as it's community's impact, rather than Fort Tryon, who's a couple of miles away, I'm good.
Oh, no, Fort Tryon Park is across the street. It's not a couple miles away. But the point is, I think in the resolution, we speak to the neighborhood context, and we can reinforce that. But as Steve and Liz pointed out, I think the park and the cloisters are also designated. So in addition to not really thinking about the urban fabric within which you are placing the building, you're not thinking about how it relates to a park and a structure that are designated for historic significance.
Got it. And then we'll chit chat around 2238 and the parking and all that nice stuff.
Yep.
Okay, thanks a lot. Francisco, you're back on, and then that'll be the end of our reports.
But we still have to vote on the reso.
Oh, we have to vote on the reso. So Betty, let me get back to you, Betty. Let's do the tally and let's get a vote on the reso, on the fresh food store application. Sorry, Francisco.
And actually, while you're waiting, Betty, Steve, you have the Word version of the draft reso, so you can just track in your changes and send it to me.
I shall do that.
Va bene.
Want to vote by hand, or do we want to vote by name? How do you want to do this, Eleazar?
Eliezer, you're muted.
I see a bunch of people who are not even on the camera, so let's just call it by name, unless they want to show their faces, except maybe for Maria who's cooking.
So do a roll call.
The roll call.
Okay, I don't have this in alphabetical order, but I'll do it from, as I put people on when they came on. All right, Eleazar, how do you vote?
Yes. Aye.
James Berlin? James Berlin?
I don't get to vote.
Michelle Ali? Michelle Ali?
Betty, you mean Marielle? And I guess
Marielle,
the
I'm sorry, I had
it's okay. And a question for James, because I'm sitting in for Daryl, so I'm not sure if I can vote.
Yes.
Yes, you definitely can. You are the representative of the committee, so you are.
Gabrielle Estrella is on, but I don't.
Oh, then Betty, my vote is yes. Thank you, James.
Certainly.
And I am here. I did join late for the tail end of the discussion, so wouldn't be able to vote anyway, given the information that was.
Got
it.
Betty, you just mentioned my name. I'm just part of a committee. I'm showing my face. Hello, everybody.
Oh, okay. Daryl, are you saying you cannot vote?
No. On behalf of representation of that committee,
Yes.
Marielle just voted.
Marielle was here for the whole discussion, so yes, please.
Hey, Florman? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Omar Tejada?
Yes.
Bonner?
Yes.
Diaz? Catherine?
Oh, you said Catherine? Yes.
She said yes, Betty.
Francisco Lopez? Francisco Lopez?
Yes, I came in late. What are we voting on again?
Read the
resolution for the executive meeting on 4650 Broadway.
Oh, yes.
Benjamin?
Yes. Betty, your sound is gone for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm voting yes. So I guess that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah,
9.
Betty, I'm voting yes as well. Domingo Estevez.
Bingo Estevez. I'm sorry about that. Okay,
Mary.
And Betty,
Mary,
on behalf of the On behalf of Traffic and Transportation and Debbie, I'm voting yes as well. That's Leo Jimenez.
That's a total of 13 yeses.
And Mary also
Gotcha.
votes yes. Okay.
All right. Betty, I think I should be listed as not voting because of my position in the Parks Department.
All right, so Steve, you're not voting?
Yeah, I think that's probably what I need to do.
So is that 12 in favor and 1 not voting, or is that
Well, yeah, 12 in favor, 1 not voting.
I agree with Steve's decision on not voting.
Good? All right,
We're good.
resolution passes.
What about the resolution?
Congratulations.
So I will clean it up and make it an executive committee resolution and send it back to you.
A resolution on 2238 Cummings Street or no?
No, that the committee passed the resolution on that, so we don't need the executive committee to vote on it.
Yeah, but we will have a discussion about that resolution at
Yes.
the full board meeting.
Yes, we will.
That's what I said. The executive committee didn't need to vote on it because the land use committee did.
No, I wanted to clarify that point because of what someone.
We always discuss the resolutions at the general meeting.
Okay, but we don't have the resolution. It hasn't even been written yet, so we don't have it in front of us.
All right. I think we're all clear, and we're gonna now move on to our next two committee chairs reports, Francisco Lopez, and then last but not least, Domingo Esteves. Francisco. Francisco.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
My apologies for jumping on the call so late. As many of you know, I work for myself, so business sometimes gets in the way, and today was one of those days, so my apologies again. We had Chris from Senator Jackson's office this month to talk about cannabis legislation. We continue to pursue more information as, I'm sorry, I'm in the Heights, so we're gonna get a little bit of silence. Hold on. Gotta love New York. Okay, so Ashley led the meeting, but pretty much what we covered was trying to get a better understanding of what businesses are dealing with. We now know that there are 9 different licenses for businesses for our residences to get involved in. We also covered, not at the meeting, but separately, we work with the agency of nightlife for New York, in the mayor's office with mental health. And we're gonna put together a mental health fair on December 15th. We don't know where the venue is as of yet. I'll keep you guys posted. But it's gonna focus on nightlife, the owners, staff, and people in that world. So just wanted to keep the board posted on that. I'll have the minutes as soon as Ashley gets done with it and send it out. That's it for now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Francisco. Domingo?
Can I ask Francisco a question?
You've been asking, ask away.
Francisco, I'm curious as to what what gave you the idea to have this mental health session for the business owners? Is this something that they said they needed?
Yes and no. While I'm out speaking with different business owners, especially in nightlife, a lot of the owners are dealing with a lot of stuff during the pandemic, PPP loans, stuff back in their homeland, employees. They're dealing with a lot of things all at once. So it wasn't something that they said because I don't know if you guys know, but in the Dominican culture, like mental health isn't really spoken. So it's not something that they're going to tell you. It's just something that you got to read and understand and see where the void is. And I just figured that enough business owners were talking to me in this way, very stressed out, that they need an outlet. And since the Office of Nightlife is doing so many great things in mental health, it just made sense to try to, marry the two.
Yeah, I wonder how they should pitch it, though, whether they should say that it's a session on mental health, or whether they should say something about how it's to relieve the stress in running your business. I mean, I think they should be careful on how they on how it's promoted.
Yes, absolutely. That's why the Ariel from the Office of Nightlife made it clear that she wants this event to be about folks who work in the nightlife industry.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to promote it. And that's how we're going to send it out to all the business owners and all their staff. It's going to be focused on that particular sector of our community.
All right, be interesting to see how it turns out.
Is anything that you want to add to help this make a success, Steve? I'm sure that Francisco would be more than happy to use your experience and your know-how. All right?
All right, very good.
Thank you, Steve. Always help. Domingo?
Yes, so this month our meeting basically consisted of speaking about, we have joined Senator Robert Jackson's gun force task force. So we're getting weekly monthly updates from Joanna, his chief of staff, Joanna Garcia, regarding what's happening, what type of resources are available to the community. And then we got reports from the various institutions that deal with public safety. And then I would refer everybody to the minutes.
All right, thank you all. And I'll go back to old business and give a report on two things. One is the two emails that were sent out to each one of our task force members to see if they had anything to report this evening in this meeting, and no one replied back. So obviously they were not included as part of tonight's agenda. So they had it, and Richard Ullman did come, but he needed to leave early. So he did have something to report. So he'll get back to us in the general meeting. And on the second item is our public hearing on the resolution of Pequeña Quisqueya. Had conversations with both Ramona Hernandez, which I spoke with today, and the chair, chief of staff of Adriano Espaillat's office. And they're both working on getting two potential dates and times to come and do the presentation. And also attend our public hearing. So I spoke to Ramona today, and hopefully I'll get back with her or from her today or tomorrow or before Friday, so that we can finally bottom line a date in which we all have an opportunity to discuss something that most of us are eager to hear, which is the resolution itself. Those are the two items that I would like to report on. Tanya, before I call the meeting for adjournment, I'd like to have a question with my guests.
And we also have new business on the agenda too. So before we close, but yes, the first question I have is about the I'll ask the first question about the hearing. I guess I'm not understanding what is taking so long. CB9 was able to put together a really comprehensive public hearing, including their presentations from Espaillat's office pretty quickly. And I'm not understanding what is taking us so long to get a hearing for our community, where according to the new resolution from Espaillat, it's going to impact mostly our community board district. So I'm just not understanding what is the holdup. Is it deliberate? Is it like, is it some reason that they're trying to push it? I'm not understanding. I'm just not understanding what the holdup is. And I would like some clarification on that. Like why we can't just get, a date to have the hearing.
I think it's very simple. You can directly, call their offices and figure out whether they're, as you're making those assumptions, that they are holding up the process. In my end, I'm emailing them. I'm personally speaking to them, and I'm just waiting for a date. That's pretty much my response. And based on my experiences of as long as I know both entities that will respond and they've, very truthful to their word and they will show up and they're not.
Yeah, I guess what I'm
So that's
saying,
the
what I'm
answer to
I guess what I'm
So
saying is
is there
that
anything else that you would like to that?
yeah,
add to
I
that?
do. I'm sorry. You interrupted when I was saying, well, in response to what you just said, the reason why I'm asking is because we're getting towards the end of the year, and this issue, and then the community wants to have a discussion about this issue, and CB9 has already had a hearing in which CB12 really wasn't they could join on to the meeting, but they really were, our issues and our concerns about it weren't part of that particular meeting. So that's why I'm asking is for the community in terms of making sure that they are able to address the issue in 2021. That's why I'm asking. And plus, we also need 10 days in advance notice to the community once we do get a date. It has to be 10, and we're coming up on holiday time. That's why I'm asking. I'm not asking just for any, I'm asking because these are valid concerns and valid questions. And I definitely, will contact them since, and I had no problem doing that, but I was trying to, let you all do what you need to do and stay in my lane with that. But, if you feel that you want me to do that, I'll be happy to contact their office and ask. The other question was about the task forces. I just think it needs to be, and I think the suggestion has come up before, is just that those task forces should just be a regular part of the committee, the updates. Just like we have the updates from the committees chairs, we should have just regular updates from those task forces. And it shouldn't be left to whether they feel that they don't have something, they do have something. They could say, hey, I don't have something, and then people can ask questions. But, I think if we have task forces on the record, that those task forces should be doing something. If they're not doing something, they never have a report, then that should be a concern for the board. And that's why I'm saying that. Okay, so I just think, again, the request is just to make it as a normal part, add it on to the other committee reports, and they can report back every executive committee, just like all the other committees.
Right, that's good. They're both incredible, intelligent suggestions, and I will make sure that moving forward, we have a procedure in place in which our task forces really comply to what their duty really is. So, Wayne?
I just want to pick up on that last point and, reiterate something I said months ago with respect to the task force. I mean, we have the task force and we have chairs of the task force. And, we don't have to or should not have to be telling them, what to do and to meet and all that. And the extent to which they are not doing that, I think the question is, do those task forces solve or serve a purpose? Or is the current, makeup working? But, yes, we could put them on on a regular executive committee agenda. But I recall for a number of them, even when the chair was present of that committee, they always had nothing to say that month. And so the question is, do we need to keep that task force at all if there's never anything to say?
Yep, something that we have to consider. And like you said, if it just came to the end of the useful life, then it is what it is. We'll figure out a way that it becomes useful for all of us. Faye.
Yes, hi. Yes, well, actually, that's captivated my attention. And I'm wondering, the conversation about that particular task force, because this has been the talk of the executive committee on many occasions, and I'm wondering exactly how productive that particular, task force has been, and what it needs to be revised on that, because I seldom heard about that, and it's always like kind of like limping kind of activity, so I'm not sure. So how exactly has been that, how effective this has been?
Tanya, last comment?
Yes, I was just going to say again, as far as the bylaws task force, I have been asking for 3 years now to lead that effort, to move that forward, and I have been denied, and I continue to be denied. So I was more than willing to do that. And we were doing a lot of work, had gathered a number of board members who were also interested and had very smart people who had a knowledge and history and had great ideas and things like that. And that was stopped. So I again, when there are people willing to move things forward, I don't know why we're stopping them moving things forward, and then having something on a book saying we have a task force and there's nothing happening. And I'm not calling anybody out specifically about that. I'm just saying we do have a task force on record, and if it's not doing anything, and I am listed as assistant chair of LGBTQ task force because of assumptions that were made. I never asked to be on that. But I am not because I'm just an ally. I am not the chair. So I didn't respond to that because I am not the chair of that particular task force. So it wasn't that I was trying to ignore an email. It's just I'm again deferring to the chair to stay in my lane with that and let that person make that decision about what they want to do. But yeah, I do agree that we need to think about what the usefulness is, and we do need a bylaws task force, but what the usefulness is of task forces that are not doing anything. We have an IT task force, for example, and we have a lot of IT concerns coming up, particularly after we start meeting in person again with COVID and how we're going to be conducting these hybrid meetings. There are a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and if we have people who are willing to do it, we need to let those people do it. Perhaps there are other people who could lead that. Why are we standing in their way? Why are we creating obstacles? Why are we doing that when we have talent on the board? But I know people who have expressed interest, and I know one person who's on the task force said she has not even been contacted or even communicated with from the person who's leading that at all in the whole entire time that her name has been part of it. So that's another question I think we need to address. Why are we stopping people who on our board who are ready, willing, and able to do this work?
So Tanya, if I
Right,
may.
Faye, yeah, just.
Thank you. So
You
Tanya,
have something to address. I just don't want to get into back and forth.
Yes. No, it's just very brief. So Tanya, a quick question to you. Since you are the assistant chair, if I'm not mistaken, of that particular task force, have you had any conversation with the chair, for that task force and trying to revive that committee, or, bring this to the community, to the executive committee, or bring this into life?
Yes, as far as that particular task force, Richard and I have had conversations. I haven't had a conversation with Richard as of late, probably over the last year, I haven't. But prior to that, and the last thing that he told me was he doesn't, there's nothing happening, and he was trying to figure out where he even wanted it to go. And that was the last that I heard about it. There had been meetings in the early stages when, about what to do, and I know there were people lined up to sort of do things, but that a lot of that depends on the chair in terms of what direction do they want to go. But I had spoken with him, but there was nothing, he didn't know what he wanted to do with it. And so he was like, well, I don't know what I want to do with it. So that's on hold. And that's what I usually have heard. And so I just, okay, it's on hold. I don't know what's happening. So, I can't tell. I don't even know what to say, Faye. I don't. It's a valid question, and thank you for asking. But yeah, it is.
You just answered my question. I think that just to conclude this, I think this is a conversation that, in your case, that it seems to be very interesting in that particular, subject. So you may want to have a conversation on the side. So when you will collectively decide whether or not you want to continue, then bring the conversation to the committee or the chairman or whatever it takes to get this, to bring this back. But it have to be some conversation, I think, on the side. Who is willing to join that, and how serious they're going to be. All
right, Faye and Tanya, thank you all for the conversation. And last but not least, I am going to announce, to remind everyone that the general meeting on November the 23rd, sorry, is the Dyckman Institute Foreign Scholarship Gala. And we've been hosting it for the past 4 or 5 years, if I believe, or maybe longer. Wayne, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong.
Much longer.
Much longer? How long?
Oh, my God. It could be
Decades.
Could be 20 years.
20
Yeah,
years.
something like that.
Yeah, older than you.
Ooh, that's funny. So that's pretty much what we're gonna have, a celebration on our next general meeting, besides of all the other stuff that we constantly debate ideas on.
Are we
So
going to circulate slices of cake by FedEx or what?
Yeah, that was my question.
bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah, when we meet in person, we get cake. Where's the cake?
Okay. Well, it's gonna be a virtual cake.
Not very tasty virtual cake.
So on that note, if you guys are willing to celebrate, those of you that can, are COVID-free, not COVID-free, but have the immune system and the two vaccines and the booster, would like to have a holiday party amongst all of us, sort of like to end the year on a high note. And I'm gonna email you guys a potential location and 3 dates in which we can have a good celebration, buffet and wine included. So I'm gonna
Socially distanced holiday party
properly
outside.
distanced in an open space, but in close open space. Place big enough that we can keep our distances from
I was just getting ready.
protocol from that. Okay, so I'll get back to you on that. So I'd like to call the meeting for an adjournment.
Second.
All right, have a great night, y'all.
Take care.
Thank you all.
Bye.
We need a motion to adjourn.
There was.
And what second?
Tim and Faye. Okay. All right. And it's 8:26. Okay.